No one sees the moment your soul lights up. Yet that is the moment when everything in your life begins to move in a completely different order. And here, where you are standing right now, is not an accident. It is the intersection between what you have endured and what you are about to become. A moment even your enemies never realized they helped create. Because while they thought you were silent out of fear, you were entering a stage that very few people have the strength to walk through. The stage of preparation for awakening. No one can tell this story for you. Your own life is speaking to you, and you know that better than anyone else. It all begins with the way people look at you, the look that underestimates you, the look that assumes you are easy to bend, easy to break, easy to crush. They never imagine that a quiet soul can hold a force strong enough to crack the ground beneath their feet. But the quiet you carry is not a sign of surrender. It is the echo of something forming inside you, something that those who have never faced themselves will never understand. Psalm 25:14 says, "The Lord reveals his covenant to those who fear him." Do you recognize that there are moments in life when you feel as if you are being led to a place no one else can see? A place reserved for those who have tasted rejection, yet kept a heart that refuses to deform. That is the sign that you are never abandoned in silence. You are simply being brought into a space where your enemies do not have the key to enter. Everything begins when they think you are a small rain, easy to fade, easy to disappear. They throw stones, they mock you, they push you aside. They see your silence as a weak wall they can pierce through at any moment. But what they do not know is that every blow they strike lands on the very part God is shaping within you. They cannot see that they are touching the seed that can break open a barren season. They do not know your stillness is not emptiness. It is a waiting room. You know this in your heart, though you have never put it into words. You feel yourself being prepared. It is like layers of soil pressing around you, so tight that it makes you want to give up many times. But that very soil makes you stronger, makes you grow deeper roots, makes you ready to rise in a way no one can predict. Your enemies believe their actions will bring you down, but in truth, they only turn you into a witness of their own foolishness. They look at you and see silence. They do not know that silence is a weapon. They look at you and think you do not react. They do not know you are reacting by holding your peace in the storm. And then one day, you realize your flame is no longer a faint light. It is an awakening. It is a silent voice that heaven and earth can hear, even if people cannot. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to speak. You do not need to recount what you survived. The truth about you is not in your words. It is in the fact that you are still standing while they stumble in the very trap they set for you. Not because you are better, but because you are real. Truth carries a weight that false hands can never hold. That is when a seal is placed on your life. 111. The number of new beginnings. The door that opens the moment the old one closes. No one sees it appear, yet you feel it. It is the whisper that your life is shifting into a new chapter, not by human strength, but by divine design. This number is like a line of light marking the moment you stop being the one pushed into someone else's story and become the one who writes your own. If something in this touches you, you may hold this number as confirmation for the journey you are stepping into. And if you want, you may leave that number as a sign that you know this door is opening for you. You have walked through days no one understood. You have stood in crowded rooms yet felt alone. You tried many times to become the version others expected, only to discover that no identity is safe when you keep letting people define your worth. The confusion you once felt was not failure. It was the shedding of the layers others placed on you. Because when God chooses someone, He will not let them live forever in garments that do not belong to them. At some point, you begin to see yourself clearly. Like when light enters a room you have lived in for years without ever opening the window. You see the hidden corners, you see the strength, you see the healed wounds you never realized you had overcome. And you understand that your life does not end with what people say or the blows they inflict. It begins right at the point where you thought you were about to break. No one sees the moment you change, but everyone will see the outcome. The silence that once caused misunderstanding now becomes the thing people fear when they face you. The quiet that once made you seem weak now becomes the proof of a strength they cannot control. You do not seek revenge. You do not return to confront them. You simply stand in the light you were given, and that alone forces those who once targeted you to face their own choices. And this is the truth you have learned. No one can stop the path of a soul that has awakened. When you know who you are, no one can define you through their fear. When you stand in your truth, every accusation becomes an empty echo. When you step into a new chapter, the old door becomes a memory without power. You are not just a survivor, you are a beginner. And this chapter, the chapter of 1 or 11, is written for you. There comes a day when you realize they do not truly hate you. They hate the feeling they have when they stand next to you. They cannot bear the way the light in you reveals the dark corners they have spent their whole lives trying to hide. They never say it, but you can feel it. Every time you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts. You do nothing. You seek no attention. You do not try to take the center. You simply exist. Yet that very presence shakes the walls they have built around themselves. At first, you think you did something wrong. You ask yourself in silence, why does simply being myself make people so uncomfortable? You try to shrink, to speak less, to feel less deeply, to be less sincere. You try being a little shallow so life feels easier. But the more you try, the more lost you feel. Because your soul was not born to perform. You cannot pretend to smile when your heart is hurting. You cannot join empty conversations without feeling drained. You cannot turn yourself into a faded version of who you are just so others can breathe easier. Then, slowly, you begin to see more clearly. Every sarcastic remark, every forced smile, every piece of advice given for your own good that only makes you shrink. All of it leads to the same root, envy, not the kind tied to material things. They do not have to lack what you have. Some even have far more than you, money, status, connections. But there is one thing they do not have, and that is the very thing they cannot tolerate in you: inner alignment. You may be breaking inside, yet still know where you belong. You may be struggling, yet still keep your dignity. You may not have achieved your dreams yet, but you do not sell your soul to climb any ladder. And in a world that prefers appearances over essence, that is hard to accept. The calm in your eyes makes them restless. The depth in your words makes them feel exposed. The honesty in your presence makes them feel uncovered. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." There are longings inside you that you cannot explain to anyone. You are not ambitious in the way people assume. You do not dream of being better than others. You simply long to be whole within yourself. You are happy when you stand in the place that is truly yours, even if no one applauds it. You are at peace when you know you are not betraying what is deepest inside. And that quiet joy is what moves you forward, even when others try to trap you in places of contempt. But for them, joy is something to prove. They need lights, applause, crowds to affirm them. They laugh loudly in public and fall into heavy silence when alone. They are used to praising one another on artificial stages. So when they see you finding joy in simple things, they grow uneasy. They do not understand why someone who lacks what they have can still stand firm without clinging to anyone. And instead of letting that question teach them, they let it turn into bitterness. So envy begins to wear a mask. It does not appear crude. It dresses itself as concern, as advice, as practicality. They say you are dreaming too much, when in truth they are the ones afraid to dream. They say you are doing too much, when they are the ones longing to live as honestly as you do but cannot. They call you too deep, when it is their own superficiality that tightens around them each day. They tell you not to be too different, yet in their eyes you see the fear that if you continue being different, one day everything they rely on will be exposed as empty. You begin to realize something. You did nothing to ignite their hostility. You simply lived. You simply kept doing what you believed was right. You chose not to speak poorly behind others, not to join collective takedowns, not to laugh at someone being humiliated. And your refusal to participate in darkness made you a target of it. Because darkness always feels threatened by someone who stands in the light without asking for permission. There are moments when you blame yourself. You wonder if you should be less sincere, if you should act a little, if you should fight back so they know who they are dealing with. But every time that thought rises, something inside you halts, as if your soul knows that if you trade the truth within you for a few minutes of safety with others, you will lose the only thing that keeps you truly alive. You understand that price is too high. You are not a saint, but you will not become a copy of those who hurt you. You begin to see the real nature of the battle. It is not you against them. It is them against themselves. And you have become the mirror. Every time you stand firm under pressure, they see their own fragility. Every time you speak truth, they hear the lies they used to survive. Every time you choose forgiveness instead of retaliation, they face a question they do not want to answer. So it is easier to call you fake, dramatic, or performative than to admit that something in you is real and they are not ready to face it. Then there comes a time when you see them pulling others into it, half-true stories, half-joking remarks aimed at you, whispered messages, all rooted in the same fear that if they stand alone against you, they will have to admit the problem is inside them. So they gather more people, more voices, more agreement, like a wall of words shielding the trembling ego inside. But there is one thing they can never control: time. Time does not stand with lies. Time stands with what is built on truth. You keep living the way you choose, even when loneliness feels suffocating. You keep working, caring for the small things, guarding your heart from turning to stone. You are not perfect, but you are honest with yourself. And in time, that begins to create a different kind of weight. Not the weight of power, but the weight of inner credibility. Those who mocked you become unsettled when they see you still standing. Those who believed their words about you begin to ask themselves, if you were truly as terrible as they claimed, why have you not collapsed? If you were as weak as they said, why are you still moving forward? If you were the villain in their stories, why does a quiet peace seem to follow you? They do not say it, but the question is planted in them, and nothing is stronger than a question that cannot be silenced. You, the chosen one, stand in the middle of it all as living proof that light does not need noise to survive. You do not need to explain who you are. Those who truly want to know will see. Those who do not want to see are not meant to be convinced by your light. Your light exists to guide you, and to guide the weary souls searching for something real to hold on to. And from deep within, you begin to understand that all the envy, all the jealousy, all the mocking are not signs that you are in the wrong place. They are signs you are standing exactly where you should be. Because if you were like everyone else, you would not disturb anyone. Only what is truly different makes darkness resist, because it fears that one day others will discover there is another path beyond the one they are living. You are not a victim of their envy. You are the mirror, and whether they dare to look into it or not, is no longer your responsibility. There is a moment in your journey that very few people are awake enough to recognize. The moment you understand that you are not someone who was abandoned, but someone who was protected from places that no longer fit your soul. And in that very moment, the truth about the people who once walked beside you begins to reveal itself. They did not lose you because they did not need you. They lost you because they were not capable of holding a soul that was growing to match the rhythm of truth. They did not have the space within themselves to contain the peace you carry. A painful truth you must accept is this: not everyone who leaves is a loss. Some leave because they cannot bear your presence. They cannot bear the purity in the way you love. They cannot bear the truth in the way you see them. Many say they want peace, but when real peace enters the room, it terrifies them. Do you know why? Because peace always requires honesty, and honesty always pulls masks off. And masks are what people spend their whole lives building. So instead of moving toward you, they step back. Instead of receiving the light, they choose the darkness they are familiar with. Instead of opening their hearts, they build higher walls. And what they do not realize is that the moment they turn away is the moment they reject the doorway that could have led them to a better version of themselves. You were not the final blow that broke the relationship. Truth was, you were only the one holding the truth. Psalm 147:3 says that the Lord heals the brokenhearted and binds up the wounds no one sees. These words speak not only to the pain you carry, but also to the reason you were chosen to step out of old cycles. There are things you cannot heal for others, even when your heart wants to. There are dark corners you cannot walk into to help them clean, because you were not made to live there. You were made to shine, and that very light unsettles them. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to explain why you are not like them. You do not need to chase the hands that let go of yours. Those who walked away did not leave because they found something better. They left because they feared becoming honest, feared growing, feared laying down the parts of themselves they have clung to, even though those parts are draining them. And in all of that, you became a bridge they were too afraid to cross. When you love someone sincerely, you become a clear mirror. They look into it and see every fracture within themselves. You do not judge them, but your presence makes them aware that there is another way to live, another loyalty, another purity. And instead of letting themselves be lifted, they turn away and call it self-protection. But you know they are not protecting anything. They are only prolonging the war they have with their own souls. There were moments when you thought you were abandoned. You asked, "Why is the love I give not received? Why does the truth I speak make others want distance? Why does my peace make people think I am dangerous?" But time teaches you this. You were never the problem. It was the light in you touching places they were never ready to open. And when they choose to leave, you experience a very special silence. Not a cold one, but a silence like the space between two breaths. A moment when you are not sure if you are losing or being given more. You stand there with no hand left in yours, yet your heart feels lighter. You feel lighter because you no longer have to shrink yourself to fit places that were never meant for you. And in that very moment, you realize that what felt like loss was actually preparation, positioning you where your worth could finally be seen for what it is. You cannot be a shelter for those who only want to hide. You cannot be a foundation for those who refuse to stand. You cannot be a light for those who decide to stay in the dark. And you cannot be salvation for those who do not want to heal. None of this is because you lack love, but because real love never breaks itself just to keep someone else from leaving. Many times you think you could have done something differently. You wonder, if only I had spoken softer, if only I had been less real, if only I had dimmed my light, would they have stayed? But a part of you knows deeply that if you must trade truth to keep a relationship, you will lose your soul. And your soul has carried too much to ever return to that darkness again. Some say you were heartless for walking away, but you know you did not leave because you stopped loving. You left because you did not want to help them stay trapped in their own collapse. You left because you loved them the right way, by allowing them to meet themselves without you standing as a barrier. You left because the peace inside you cannot coexist with the chaos they refuse to release. And then something strange happens. When you leave, they begin to feel your absence in a way unlike any other absence. It does not feel like a breakup. It feels like a change in the air. Their conversations become duller, their laughter shorter, their sense of connection thinner. They do not understand it immediately, but their soul knows. What they lost was not a person, but a spiritual climate. What you brought into their life was not merely presence, but clarity, warmth, order, peace. You were the bridge, but they chose another path, and the path they chose collapsed on their very first step. If something inside you feels like it is opening as you read this, you can write a few lines to share. Even a small voice can bring confirmation to someone listening who feels the same way. And if you want to continue this journey, you can follow along so you will not miss the next part of the story your life is reflecting. Because this is not the ending. This is only the place where you pause to breathe, to look back at the bridge you once were, and to see clearly that when someone is too afraid to cross, it was never your fault. The peace within you is not something you learned from anyone. It was forged in the nights when you had nothing to hold on to except your own final breath. And that very peace, the thing others mistake for passivity, becomes the mirror that exposes the storms they try to hide. You once thought you were the weaker one, but life revealed a truth no one says out loud. The strong are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who stand still in chaos without losing their essence. When you show up, they lose their balance, not because you demand anything from them, but because your quietness forces them to face themselves. They are used to living through noise, the noise of arguments, sighs, comparisons, blame. They use that noise to cover the emptiness inside. But when you walk in, your silence becomes light shining on the places they do not want to see. Your stillness becomes the question they cannot avoid. You stand there without judging, reacting, or fighting, yet something in them begins to twist, as if someone just reached into the core they spent their whole lives locking away. They say you are cold, not because you lack emotion, but because you no longer get pulled into the chaos they have used to keep people close. They say you are distant, not because you avoid connection, but because you refuse to surrender to the unreasonable demands of the fear they nurture in their hearts. You once did not understand this. You once believed something was wrong with the way you approached the world. But the more you watched, the more you realized something important. They are not angry at you. They are angry that you do not react the way they expect. They are used to creating storms to see who stands with them. But you do not step into the storm. They are used to inflating problems to keep others dependent, but you are not dependent. They are used to using silence as a weapon, but the silence in you is a strength they cannot measure. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." This is not an invitation to withdraw from life, but a reminder that there is a kind of power that only appears when the soul is still enough to hear. You are the living example of that verse. The quiet within you does not come from weakness. It comes from learning how to listen to God, to listen to truth, to listen to yourself. And people cannot stand those who hear themselves, because that means they can no longer control your emotions. Your peace becomes their test. Those who are unhealed see you as a thorn. Those who live through pretending see you as an accusation. Those who survive through chaos see you as a threat. They look at you and see what they are hiding, their instability. They look at you and see what they lack, grounding. They look at you and see the freedom they have never dared to chase. So they react, not to you, but to their own fear. They start placing on you the names they secretly use for themselves. Cold, confusing, pretending, self-righteous. They twist the story so you look like the danger, all to avoid facing the truth that it is their inner disorder making them uncomfortable. They call you the cause, when in reality, you are only the mirror. You walk through those days with a heavy but unbroken heart. You observe and understand that you cannot control how others see you. You can only guard the truth inside you from being distorted, because if you respond by losing your peace, you will lose the foundation God placed in your life. You learned this through many cuts. A soul still filled with storms cannot bring peace to anyone, and you were called long ago out of that kind of living. And even though you do not fight back, the storm inside them grows, not because of what you do, but because of what you do not do. Your lack of reaction creates a space where they must face their true selves. When they push you and you do not fall, they see their weakness. When they slander you, yet you remain at peace, they see their insecurity. When they wait for your anger and it never comes, they see their lack of control. And when they expect your collapse but you remain standing, they see the collapse inside their own hearts. You do not need to expose their truth. They expose it themselves by the way they react to you. Then one day, your peace becomes something they can no longer tolerate. Not because it is wrong, but because it is too real for souls that have lived too long behind masks, so they start pushing you away, as if you were the cause of their pain. But their pain does not come from you. It comes from what they refuse to face. You leave not because you want to, but because you have been called out of spaces where your peace is no longer welcomed. And then something strange happens. When you leave, the space behind you is not ordinary emptiness. It is like when light leaves a room and everything loses its shape. The air becomes heavy, conversations become thin, laughter becomes forced. The very thing they mocked you for having is now the thing they miss the most. The stability you carried like an underground river. You do not return to tell them. You do not remind them that you were once the peace they rejected. You simply keep walking, and your steps reveal what was always true. They never stood firmly. Your peace does not need protection. It protects itself by keeping you away from places you no longer belong. There is a truth your heart knows now more than ever. Peace is light, and light does not belong in places that refuse its presence. When a place decides to turn off the lamp, you cannot force yourself to stay. You are called to step out, to where you never have to shrink your truth just to fit in. You are not the bringer of chaos. You are the reason chaos shows itself, and that is a gift greater than any strength you ever thought you had. There is a kind of wound that makes no sound, yet leaves an echo inside you, like a room where the reverberation never fades. It is when the love you give is used by someone as a prop, not because they do not understand love, but because they see it only as an asset, a stage, a way to keep you within their control. They do not love the way you love. They enjoy the feeling of receiving, yet fear the responsibility of giving at the same depth. And that fear leads them to turn the most sacred part of you into a tool that feeds their insecurity. You love with truth. They respond with strategy. You give your heart. They give an image. You seek connection. They seek advantage. It all begins smoothly, beautifully, exactly like how a story should unfold. They observe you, mirror you, laugh when you laugh, say the things you want to hear. They create a version of themselves that fits the dream you carry inside. And you, because you are sincere and longing to be seen without judgment, believed in that imitation. For a time you thought you had found the right person, someone who could hear the sigh in your heart without you speaking, someone who could stand beside you without fearing your light or your depth, someone who could hold your hand through the turns of life. But the deeper you stepped in, the more you felt something was off, as if two souls were standing in two different rooms even while touching hands. They never truly entered the love. They only entered the role of someone who knows how to love. And you sensed that not through their words, but through the unnamed spaces between them. They knew how to make you hope, but not how to make you feel safe. They knew how to touch your emotions, but not how to open their own. They wanted to be loved, but they did not want to be seen where they were unhealed. What hurt you was not that they left. What hurt you was realizing they had never truly stayed. They were never present. They only appeared. You begin to ask yourself, why did I give so much? Why did I let someone walk so deep into me? Why did I not see the signs from the start? But those questions do not lead you to guilt. They lead you to truth. And the truth is this: you loved with your whole heart, while they loved with their fear. Those two things can never blend into anything lasting. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted." You do not need anyone to explain that verse to you. You felt it the moment you let go, the moment you allowed yourself to accept that this love was not yours to hold. The moment you recognize that you deserve more than what you received. Some pain needs no witness, because God was already in the room with you when your heart tore open. And then you see the truth clearly. They did not love you. They loved being loved by you. They did not need your heart. They needed your light to fill their shadows. They did not want partnership. They wanted control over your feelings, so that you would become dependent. They wanted the thrill of knowing you were investing in something that had no foundation. But true love is not built on victory. True love is built on openness. You opened, they did not. There were moments when you wished you could return to the first time you met them and warn yourself not to step in too deeply. But the knowing inside you says this was not a mistake. This was a lesson shaping your essence. Not to make you afraid of love, but to teach you to distinguish between love and consumption, between affection and performance, between giving and being exploited. You start remembering the small details, the times you spoke truth and they changed the subject, the times you were vulnerable and they went silent, the times you asked for clarity and they said you were overreacting, the times you shared your fears and they used them to keep you close. Every piece fits the picture you did not want to name. They did not love you. They loved controlling the way you feel. But the strange beauty of the love you gave is this: even when it was misused, it remained pure. It did not make you bitter. It made you wiser. It made you look deeper into your soul. It made you understand that real love never shrinks anyone. Real love makes both people grow. And the kind of love you just walked away from was the kind that made you smaller so the other could feel bigger. And when you let go, the silence began to speak for you. That silence was not punishment. It was the confirmation that you had seen everything clearly and chose to walk away with your dignity intact. In that silence, they began to feel your absence like a void they cannot fill. Not because they lost someone who loved them, but because they lost the emotional resource they had been draining without gratitude. As you heal, they slowly realize that what they lost was not power. What they lost was grace. Not every love returns. Not every heart waits. Not every peace allows someone to enter twice. You know this well. People do not lose you because they made one mistake. They lose you because they treated your presence as guaranteed. And when a soul like yours walks away, it does not leave the door open behind it. You did not become harder, you became clearer. This clarity is not to close your heart, but to help you recognize what is worthy of it. You understand that your heart was not made to be a refuge for souls running from themselves. It was made to journey with souls willing to grow beside you. And as you walk forward, one thing becomes certain. You did not lose love. You simply returned a love that was never yours. And true love is still waiting, at the crossroads where your heart will never have to shrink to fit anyone again. There is a truth you only see clearly once you grow. Not everyone who appears in your life is meant to walk with you to the end. Some people come only to prove one thing, that not every soul has the courage to grow when the opportunity arrives. And when you look back, you see they did not lose you because they did not understand you, but because they chose ego over growth at the very moment that growth could have changed their entire future. You brought them something you yourself took years to gain, vision. You did not say the easy things. You said the true things. You did not soothe unreasonable weakness. You named it. You did not push them into darkness. You simply pointed out where light had not yet reached. And at first, that drew them in. They felt lifted, they felt illuminated, they felt doors opening in their lives that they never knew they could reach. But at the same time, something inside them began to tremble, because vision comes with responsibility. Truth comes with the call to change. And you did not accept a role. You did not play halfway. You wanted them to grow, while they only wanted to be praised for looking like they had grown. You wanted them to walk the path, while they only wanted to stand still and hear you describe it. There are moments so subtle that they decide the entire fate of a connection. The moment they hear you speak what is right, but choose to laugh it off to ease their fear. The moment you offer advice that could open a new horizon, but their ego says accepting it means admitting they are not enough. The moment you show them the way, but they worry more about what others think than about the fact that their future is being delayed by their own pride. You see it, but you do not say it. You simply watch and understand. They are standing at a crossroads without the courage to choose the harder but better path. You see them change how they look at you, how they speak, how they stand beside you, not because you are wrong, but because they start to feel smaller next to you, not because you try to shrink them, but because they refuse to expand within themselves to grow to your level. You never asked them to become a copy of you. You only hoped they would not limit themselves. And that simple expectation was the one thing they could not bear. They chose the familiar path, returning to the crowd, returning to short-lived applause, returning to people who will praise them simply for existing, without asking them to truly change. They call your honesty pressure. They call your depth exaggeration. They call your vision illusion. They laugh with those who fear you, because that laughter helps them forget what their soul is missing. You are not angry with them, but you ache for them, because they do not know the path they rejected was the way out of the cycles they have been complaining about for years. And then the moment comes when they end the connection by withdrawing. Not with a goodbye, not with honesty, but with a forced smile and a step back meant to protect a trembling ego. They think they gained an advantage. They think they have returned to the right place. They think they have won, but you know better. They just rejected the only invitation to growth that life handed to them at the exact moment they needed it most. You do not hold on, not because you do not care, but because you understand no one can be pulled into maturity if they cling to pride as armor. You let them go. You even clear the path for them, because you know truth waits at the end of every road, and one day they will face it without you there to soften the blow. You keep walking, but not as someone left behind. You walk as someone who fulfilled their purpose, offering vision, offering truth, offering kindness without demanding anything in return. You understand that not everyone receives the chance to change at the right time, and not everyone chooses it when it arrives in the form of challenge. In the quiet of your new journey, you look back and see clearly you have not lost anyone. You only finally saw who never belonged where you are going. You did not lose a relationship. You escaped a detour that would have slowed your path under the weight of someone's refusal to look within. You understand that life did not take anything from you. Life cleared the road for you. And the deepest truth you learned is this: not everyone who smiles at you walks with you. Not everyone who listens to you understands you. Not everyone who stands beside you moves with your rhythm. And not everyone who receives vision has the courage to step into its depth. Growth is never a gift handed without cost. It always asks, are you willing to lower your ego to lift your soul? You were willing, they were not. There comes a day when truth begins to shift in silence, and you realize not every blow people throw at you is meant to hurt you. Many blows are thrown only to protect the story they tell about themselves. Because if your truth stands tall, their story collapses. And when someone lacks the courage to face the cracks in their own soul, they will choose to distort the image of another to keep their mask from falling. At first, you do not understand why whispers begin spreading behind your back. You hear strange stories, interpretations you never spoke, emotions they project onto you that you have never felt. They say you are unstable, even though they are the ones who cannot handle your stability. They say you are arrogant, even though they are the ones trembling before your refusal to accept pretense. They say you are difficult, when what truly disturbs them is that they cannot control your emotional world. But the sad truth is this: the crowd believes them. No verifying, no observing. Just a few words spoken at the right time, to the right ears, in the right emotional climate. And suddenly you become a character in a story whose writer never cared whether you wanted to appear in it. Yet what hurts you most is not their inventions. What hurts is watching people who once trusted you turn away because another voice shouted louder. People you listened to, cared for, and protected now look at you like they never knew you. Not because you changed, but because they believed a version of you molded by someone else's fear, not by truth. You want to speak, to explain, to say everything has been twisted, to show them you are not the villain in anyone's story. But the deepest part of you knows truth does not need defenders. It only needs time. And you begin to understand something you once feared. Sometimes silence is not defeat. Silence is the strategy of truth. You step aside and let time do what you were never meant to do. Because if you chase every rumor, you will lose the peace God has given you through the years of endurance. And that peace was not given for petty battles. It was given to steady your soul, while truth walks through temporary darkness before shining again. Psalm 27:1 says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" That verse becomes clearer than ever. Light does not argue with darkness. It simply appears, and darkness loses power. You do not need to chase every voice trying to shrink you. You only need to stand right, and the light within you will adjust the whole room. And that is exactly what happens. Contradictions start appearing in their stories. One person speaks one way, another speaks differently. They blame each other, they correct their own words. They scramble to justify things that make listeners begin to doubt. Not doubt you, doubt them. Because words built from fear always tremble, but truth stands still. You do not need to prove you were misunderstood. Those who believe the lies begin to notice something does not align. They look back at you, remembering you never responded with hatred, never harmed anyone, never used truth to tear someone down. And they ask themselves, if you were truly as terrible as they claimed, why do you stand calm without losing yourself? One day, the person who spoke against you cannot look you in the eye, not because of anything you did, but because their conscience begins to move. They know truth is returning, and nothing they do can stop it. The silence they once called weakness becomes the knocking they do not want to hear. And you, through it all, stand steady like a tree that has survived many storms. No revenge, no blame, no proving. You simply stand in the truth you know, and that truth becomes a quiet light no one can extinguish. You begin to feel that isolation is not punishment. It is purification. The people who leave you are not losses. They are echoes of the darkness you have outgrown, and when darkness can no longer cling to you, it withdraws, taking with it those not ready to face truth. Then you see clearly, you were never the one harming anyone. You were simply the one signaling truth. And those who refuse to live honestly find themselves exposed in your presence. That is what makes them fear you, resist you, and speak of you with the very things they fear most in themselves. But truth is patient. It needs no defense. When its moment comes, it does not knock. It pushes the door open. And when it enters, everything false loses its strength. You only need to stand there in the stillness of your soul for people to realize on their own what you never needed to say. They were wrong about you. Wrong. There comes a moment of deep quiet in your journey. A moment when every accusation has fallen silent and every noise that but once tried to drown you has grown tired and faded away. That is when you realize you were never standing in the middle of a battlefield. You were standing in the land of restoration. The silence that others mistook as defeat became the space where you rebuilt yourself. No noise, no declarations, no need to prove anything. You simply returned to your true essence, and that alone was enough to unsettle the souls who once hoped you would fall. No one saw that moment. No one knew which shattered pieces you had to gather. No one saw the nights you stood alone in a dark room, hearing only the faint rhythm of your own struggling breath. They thought you disappeared. They thought you lost. They thought you were broken beyond return. But inside, where no one could see, something holy was happening. You were being rebuilt. Psalm 42 says that the Lord lifted you out of the pit of destruction, out of the mud and mire, and set your feet on solid rock. That is not a poetic comfort. It is a precise description of what happened within you. You did not rise by your own strength. You ran out of strength long ago. You rose because a hand pulled you out of a place you could not escape alone. And when you were set on that rock, you were no longer the person who fell. You were the one who survived the fall. Those who once judged you based on the moment you were weak never understood that you went through a kind of rebirth that not everyone experiences. They saw only your silence. They did not see the forging of steel in your soul. They did not know that every word thrown at you, every betrayal planted around you, every door slammed in your face, became the material you used to rebuild. Everything they used to break you, God used to build you. And then one day, you walk out of the quiet room where you stayed for so long. But the person who returns is not the one they wounded, not the one who collapsed under cruelty, not the one who trembled under isolation. The one who returns is a version even you are surprised to see. Calmer, deeper, wider, freer. So free that you barely recognize the fear that once held you captive. You do not return with shouting. You do not return with allies. You do not return to claim credit. You do not return to confront anyone or reclaim honor. You return with clarity in your eyes, lightness in your steps, and a steadiness no one can imitate or purchase. That return confuses many. They hoped you would break. You stand. They expected you to fade. You shine. They wanted you small. You expand. You are the living proof, the answer they never wanted to face. You do not need to say, "I made it." They hear it in your voice, in your breathing, in the peace that surrounds you. They hear it every time they look at you and no longer recognize the person they once hurt. They see the truth they tried to hide, the truth that they could not destroy you, and the truth that their betrayal became the very thing that made you stronger than ever. When you show up again, they grow uneasy, not because you seek revenge, but because they know you now see them clearly. This trembling does not come from unconfessed guilt. It comes from undeniable truth. You are the mirror they cannot break. You are the reflection they cannot escape. You do not speak of what they did. You do not revisit their wounds. But the peace you carry moves through the room like a ribbon of light and reveals every shadow without you saying a word. They see their own reactions. They see masks falling. They see the words they flung at you now echoing back toward them, not because you wished for it, but because truth always finds its way. You return with a confidence that is quiet. It is not the confidence born from applause. It is the confidence born from days you thought you would not survive, yet survived anyway. It is not the confidence of victory. It is the confidence of existence. You are. And that alone is enough to make tremble those who wanted you erased. They look at you and they fear, not because you are powerful, but because you are no longer moved by them. You no longer need their approval. You no longer need their understanding. That independence makes them feel smaller. You do not need to defeat them. You only need to stand in your new self. That alone reminds them every attempt to break you has failed. What hurts them most is not losing you. What hurts them most is witnessing you grow in the very places where they hoped you would collapse. Seeing you at peace in the spaces where they thought you would fall apart. Watching you step through the pain they hoped would hold you down. And the harshest truth is this: you did not just grow. You grew beyond the space where they could ever follow. Your return does not carry the scent of revenge. It carries the scent of recovery. True recovery has its own voice. It does not need shouting. It does not need explanation. It does not need proof. When people see you now, they know truth has won. They know their words have decayed. They know you have stepped out of the victim role and become the author of your own story. And the most beautiful part is this: you carry no burden of resentment. You do not seek payback. You do not judge. You simply live in the truth you rediscovered, in the days when everything felt impossible. The way you live now is the declaration. No words needed, no confrontation required, no proving necessary. Your existence is the evidence. If they thought you would disappear, now they must face the reality that you are the piece life placed exactly where you belong. You no longer fit the places where you once were wounded, and none of them have the capacity to enter the inner territory you have rebuilt. They are no longer facing you. They are facing the truth about themselves. There is something strange about the people who once rose up against you. They were never brave enough to face you alone. They were not strong enough to look you in the eye and say what they thought, not honest enough to speak truth, not deep enough to withstand the stillness within you. So they chose the easier path, to find allies, not allies of truth, but allies of fear. They gathered souls as trembling as their own and formed a parade of jealousy, rumors, and staged suffering meant to hide the insecurity quietly eating them from within. You watched from afar, almost unable to believe what you were seeing. Someone who once came to you for support now stood in the crowd telling a story they knew was a distortion. You did not understand it at first, until you recognized the deeper truth. People do that only when your presence makes them feel small in their own narrative. And instead of growing, they gather a crowd to feel bigger. But a crowd is not a foundation. A crowd is only an echo. It can amplify someone's voice, but it cannot sustain their soul. So whatever begins with noise always returns to silence. And in that silence, you finally hear what God has been showing you all along. Truth does not need numbers. Truth only needs to stand. They build stories, send messages, adjust details, and add fake sympathy. They hand half-truths to people hungry for drama. They push you into a corner as if they were the victim and you were the threat. And more than once, you found yourself misunderstood in places you had never stepped into, by people who had never heard you speak a full sentence. It touched you, it hurt, but it did not destroy your peace. Because you knew this. If they needed a crowd to stand against you, it meant they could not stand on their own. Truth never needs allies, only fear does. As time passes, the circle they created begins to crack. Their secret meetings lose excitement. Their stories start to sound repetitive, dull, lacking life. Some who once sided with them begin to sense something off. They ask why the story always returns to you, why your name must be repeated so often, why behind all their anger is an obsession they cannot hide. People begin observing not you, but them. They notice they have no peace. They notice they explode over small things. They notice they constantly need agreement to feel right. And their imbalance becomes so obvious that even those who once believed them begin to step back. When their allies leave, they stand exposed. No agreement, no support, no one repeating the story that once lifted them. They stand in the emptiness they once thought would swallow you, but now it swallows them. They begin to feel a heavy loneliness, not because they were abandoned, but because they separated themselves from truth and built a false world where they were the righteous ones. And when that world collapses, they have nothing left to hold on to. You do not gloat. You do not celebrate. You simply watch from a distance and understand they are facing the consequences of what they planted, not because you desired it, but because truth operates that way. Psalm 37:28 says that the Lord protects the upright, but the wicked are pursued by their own actions. No punishment needed, no revenge required. What they did returns to them like a shadow that never leaves their feet. And then they begin to remember you, not the love, not the peaceful moments, but the way you carried peace, the way you faced chaos without collapsing, the way you stood firm without needing anyone beside you. They look back and realize that what they once called weakness is exactly what they now lack. You become the living evidence of what they are missing. You are the silence they cannot explain, the calm they cannot touch, the stability they cannot imitate no matter how hard they try. They want to hate you, but what they actually feel is something deeper, envy for what they cannot copy. You are not a weapon, but to those who live in darkness, truth is a weapon, and when truth stands before them, they can do nothing but pull away from its light. Now you see it clearly. They did not lose to you. They lost to themselves. The crowd they built to stand against you is the same crowd that witnesses their collapse. And that collapse does not come from an outside blow. It comes from the moment the mask falls and nothing remains for them to cling to. You walk on, without looking back, without waiting for apology, without needing them to admit you were right. You do not need any of that. Your aim was never to win against a person. Your aim has always been to keep your soul in the right direction. In this journey, only one thing matters: truth. Everything else, including the crowd that once turned its back on you, is only scenery in a much larger story. A story of how God used everything meant to bring you down to lift you into a place they could never reach. You do not need them to return. They do not need your forgiveness to survive, but they will have to face what they did to themselves, and that is something they cannot escape. If you feel this touching your own path, let it be marked with a small acknowledgement. Sometimes one sentence from you can open a door for someone still wandering in their darkness. There comes a moment in your journey when no accusation, no betrayal, and no opposing wind has the power to shake you anymore. It is the moment you realize you have traveled far from the version of yourself who once trembled for acceptance, who once hurt under distorted gazes, who once collapsed beneath words that did not belong to truth. You stand in life as someone who has walked out of the thickest dust, and no one can quite pinpoint where your strength came from. But you know, you grew strong from the very things that tried to bury you. In this regained calm, you finally see what you once could not believe. Those who stood against you never truly stood against you. They stood against the truth that surfaced within them whenever you appeared. You never scared them. Your clarity did. Your transparency unsettled their souls. When they struck you, they were striking the parts of themselves they refused to face. When they created stories, they were only trying to hide the fractures inside their own hearts. You were never the enemy. You were simply a mirror too sharp. And the most beautiful thing is that in the end, you do not need them to bow their heads or return to apologize. You do not need anyone to admit their wrongs, so you can stand tall. Because the right to stand tall never belonged to them. It belonged to you. From the moment you learned not to react the way the world expected you to, you did not demand victory. You reclaimed your soul. And when someone regains their soul, there is nothing left to prove. Everything you went through gathers into one question that your soul has already answered through its survival. Who will you become after all of this? Not the person they said you were, not the image they twisted, not the role they wanted you to play. You become the one thing no one can alter or distort, your true essence. That realization makes you look back on your journey without bitterness, but with understanding. If they had not betrayed you, you would not have learned to stand alone. If they had not spoken falsely about you, you would not have learned to trust your inner truth. If they had not left, you would not have stepped into the places where your peace could grow without being suffocated. Every blow they thought would end, you became the tool God used to shape you into who you were always meant to be. And then you witnessed their silence. No more crowd, no more chants, no more voices supporting the stories they created. Everything around them becomes so dull that they must finally face what they fear most, themselves. Without anyone helping them maintain their masks, they see you standing steady, and it unsettles them. Not because you seek revenge, but because you do not. Not because you demand justice, but because you no longer need it. You move forward as if life never tried to trap you, and that alone shows them you have grown beyond any chapter they tried to write about you. In that stillness, a seal begins to rise within your soul, the number 888, not as a distant mystery, but as a confirmation that everything you lost has been reborn in a new cycle. 3 beginnings, 3 restorations, 3 openings of doors. As if heaven wants you to know this chapter is not an ending, but the place where you begin to live in the strength you paid dearly to gain. And if someone feels that this number touches their journey, they can write it down as a sign that they too are ready for a new unfolding. As you look back, you understand something else. God did not only save you from others, He saved you from the version of yourself you would have become had you held on to what no longer belonged to you. That separation was not meaningless, it was protection. You lost them, but you kept yourself, and keeping yourself is the greatest victory any soul can claim. Then you step back into life in the lightest, deepest, most grounded way, no longer carrying the fear of being misunderstood, no longer carrying the pressure to prove your worth, no longer carrying wounds as your identity. Pain is no longer who you are, it is just a step. You no longer walk as someone betrayed. You walk as someone who has seen something greater than betrayal, divine guidance, something no voice, no rumor, no loss can stop. And with that new way of walking, you do not wish for anyone to pay. You do not wish harm on anyone. You only hope they find themselves in truth, just as you found yourself. You understand this. Not everyone who hurt you is evil. Some are simply trapped in dark corners they have not yet learned to step out of. And you, with everything you have lived through, now understand that light does not attack darkness. Light only reveals. Whether someone follows it or not is their choice. But your part is clear. You will not turn away from the light anymore. You will not shrink yourself so someone else can be comfortable. You will not bend truth to keep a relationship. You were made to stand tall, to be at peace, to be deep, to be clear. And from this moment on, everything that comes into your life must align with that essence. No one has the right to write your story anymore. No one has the right to define you by what you survived. No one has the right to call you by a name you no longer answer to. You do not live to please. You live to be true. You have walked through fire. Now you walk in light.
Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.